what's going on, guys? It's Kitten of Doom, and today we're doing another god guide, and this one is going to be on Chronos, and he is a hunter, and we will be going over his abilities and what they do. So his first ability is called Shifter of Seasons, and Chronos imbues his glaive with the power of 4 seasons. Activating this ability rotates him through 4 different bonuses to his basic attacks. So the first one is Spring Growth, which gives him bonus physical lifesteal. Second is Summer Heat, which gives him bonus damage. Third is Autumn Decay, which gives him a debuff on the enemy for 5 seconds. Fourth is Winter Chill, which slows the enemy for 1 second. And below you can see how these abilities scale up with the physical lifesteal increasing, as well as the damage and reduced protections, as well as the increase on the slow. Second ability is Bramble Blast. Chronos fires a bramble forward in a line that roots a single enemy hit. Upon hitting an enemy, wall, or reaching max range, it will explode, dealing damage and spawning an area of brambles at the location. This area deals damage every 0.5 seconds and persists for 5 seconds. And you can see damage scaling from 40 to 200 plus 75% of your physical power. And the root's always 1 second, and area damage also scales up as well. Third ability is Horn Charge. Chronos charges forward, damaging and crashing through all types of enemies. And damage scales from 70 to 290 plus 80% of your your physical power. Fifth ability is his ultimate, which is called the Wild Hunt. Chronos selects an area where the Wild Hunt will begin. After a 1 second delay, enemy gods in the area will be damaged and polymorphed into wild boars. Polymorphed gods are silenced and disarmed. Polymorph is not affected by diminishing returns. So damage scales up from 200 to 400 plus 90% of your physical power. And his passive is Heavy Glaive. And Chronos wields a glaive as a weapon. His basic attacks deal additional damage to all enemies in melee range while he's throwing it. The additional damage from Heavy Glaive does not trigger any effects from items or abilities, and it cannot critical strike. And the damage on this is 25% of your basic attack damage. So generally, you always want to max his 2 because it is his wave clear, so you always want to start off with that. And typically you'd want to get your dash second, just in case you're going to be in any trouble or anything in Conquest. And level 3 is up to you. If you don't want to get the extra lifesteal, or if you're kind of getting ahead in your lane, go ahead and pick up Bramble Blast just for more extra damage on the minion wave. Let's just go with his first ability for now, and then obviously go into Bramble Blast. Obviously get your ultimate when you're level 5, and we're going to be maxing this out. And typically on him I max his 1 second, and I'd always want to put a point into his ultimate just for the extra damage. And I'm going into his 1, then finishing his 2. And this is what I would typically do. And his Horn Charge does deal a decent amount of damage, but typically you won't be using it as much for damage unless you're in certain situations. So that's why I level it last, and that is how I would build him on levels 1 through 20. Alright guys, now in jungle practice we can go a little more in depth with him. So obviously in Conquest you'd be wanting to start an starter item, and this is typically up to you. He can be good with both of these starter items, either Death's Toll or Bluestone Pendant. But I typically like to build Bluestone Pendant on him just to help out his clear a little bit more, and it does a lot more damage if you hit this on an enemy god, so I like picking this up. But if you want Death's Toll for the extra sustain and mana regen, then go ahead and do that. Obviously in Conquest you want to be picking up Bumpus Mask because you're going to be soloing jungle camps by yourself, like your red and purple buff. And then with this start you have enough gold to buy 2 health pots and 2 mana pots. And typically, just depending on what their comp is, if they have a lot of CC, go Beads first, and if they don't, go Aegis. And I'm going to go over to this wave to show you how to clear with this 2. And his 2 looks like this, so it's the projectile, and at max range it does explode. So on this minion wave, you want to position his Bramble Blast to hit both the archers and melee creeps. Obviously in this little corridor it's a little bit harder, but you kind of get the gist. And then you can see his passive. The closer I get to these minions, I do some cleave attacks in melee range. So he's actually pretty good at clearing, especially by himself and with another guardian. So you'd want to be hitting it like that so that you can hit the whole minion wave and go ahead and like go up close to them with your cleave attacks, and you have some pretty good clear with him. So that's what I typically do to clear the lane. So his 1 is a little bit complicated to get to know, but you can see his passive right now, how his little glaive is green. That means you're getting passive lifesteal. And his second one is Summer Heat, which gives you extra bonus damage on your auto attack. So you can see that 5 hitting up. So that is what the Summer Heat does. Typically you'd want to be staying in this stance for a lot of the time, but they did nerf it, so it's kind of not as good as it used to be. So just keep that in mind. Third ability is the Autumn stance, which gives you a debuff on him. So you could see I was hitting him for 54, or sorry, 54, but now I'm hitting him for 57. It's giving enemy gods reduced protections. So you can see that little effect that it has on the Odin. It's just that those little like kind of flames or whatever, just showing that the debuff is on him. So this is actually pretty good now that Summer Heat is nerfed. So you can feel free to switch between this and Summer Heat, but you have to kind of switch through them fast. But this doesn't have a cooldown, so you can switch through them however many times you like, and it's not going to cost mana. Third ability is his Winter Stance, which gives a slow, so kind of almost like you have like a less powerful Frostbound. So this can be pretty good on him as well. It gives him a lot of utility, and if you want to chase someone down, go ahead and put your Winter Stance on and chase him down like that. And if you want to be, you know, like a professional Chronos, you can like hit him with your Autumn stance and then, you know, switch to your bonus damage stance, and there's a lot of different things you can do with him. Or like, you know, hit him with your Autumn stance, go into your slow, then your extra bonus damage. It can be a little bit confusing, but once you get used to it, it is pretty fun to play him. And obviously we showed you the 2 before. It has this range, and if it hits anyone closer, then it just stops on the first enemy god or wall hit, so keep that in mind. Third ability is just like a normal dash, but he dashes through gods and it does damage. So it can be a good way to clean up kills. If you don't have anything else up, go ahead and dash through them. And just be careful that no one's trying to gank you, and you should be okay. But generally try and save your dash until you know that you're safe and you can get away with dashing on them for damage. And this is what his ultimate looks like. They did nerf the radius because it used to be a lot bigger and used to cover most of the lane. So it is a little bit shorter, and it does have a 1 second wind up time, so enemy gods can get out of this if they're near like the edge of this, but you just cast this and they turn into a boar. So this is pretty funny when he first came out, because you'd never think that Smite would do this, but it's pretty cool that you can turn people into boars, and turning into a boar is pretty annoying when you're on the battlefield because you can't do anything. You can just run away and you can't use abilities while you're a boar. So it's a pretty good ultimate, and it does have a pretty long cooldown now. They increased the cooldown to 100 seconds, so obviously his ultimate is really good to disrupt team fights and everything like that. So just keep in mind that it has a long cooldown. Chronos kind of has 2 different paths he can do. He can go penetration, like attack speed and penetration, or he can go crit. So let's do like a penetration kind of build. I always like on pen builds to do warrior tabi and And Transcendence really I don't think is too great on him. He can't really use it as effectively as other gods, so Ichaival has been nerfed, but I still think it can be a good early game item. So go ahead and pick that up. I actually do like Aussie right now. It gives 20% lifesteal now and gives 20% attack speed and 15 physical penetration. And this plus his green stance will make him healthy in most of these, team fights, or just go on to a jungle buff with both your green stance and Aussie and Bumbas, and you're going to be full health in no time. And next, I think Executioner is a must-have on him. They increased the physical power in the last patch, so pick this up. Gives him really good attack speed, and he is amazing with attack speed. He hurts so much with this. And next up, go ahead and sell your Bumbas or your Bluestone, just depending, and pick up Keen Size. You're going to be shredding tanks with this, obviously, for its passive. And if you're with your Summer Heat stance, you're going to be having the extra damage, and then you're going to have extra damage with the Keen Size passive. So he's a really good tank shredder. Next up, you can go for pure penetration item, kind of like a Brawler's if they have healers on the other team. I typically never really build Jotuns on him just because he's more auto attack based. I would recommend getting Crusher. I think it's an underrated item right now. It gives 15% attack speed, 15 physical penetration, physical power, and then when you hit enemies with your basic attacks, you actually subtract 1 second from all of your abilities on cooldown. So I think this item is amazing because Cernunnos is basic attacking all the time. He's gonna easily get that passive. And you can go Titan's Bane. I know a lot of people say Executioner and Titan's Bane don't work well together, but in my mind, objectives win games, and you're going to be absolutely shredding objectives in Conquest if you build Titan's Bane as well. So it's all up to personal preference. If you don't want Titan's Bane and Executioner together, go Crusher, and if you don't care, go ahead and pick up Titan's Bane. Last thing you want to do in this build is sell Ichaival late game for Odysseus Bow. This gives insane this gives insane attack speed, and the passive is really amazing because it has that chain lightning effect that bounces through all the enemy team, and it can get them pretty low if you just keep using that Odysseus Bow passive. We're really high in attack speed, which is nice because that's what Cernunnos needs. We're at 2.22 attack speed, so even more late game, if you want to sell Aussie for like Bloodforge, go ahead and do that. And he still will have some pretty good attack speed. We just went to 2.02 attack speed, so if it's getting super late game, go ahead and do that. And we'll show you the damage numbers on this build. So obviously with XC, we're going to be hitting a little bit more. And then if you go in close, you even have your cleave attack, so you can see all these yellow and orange numbers popping up, so he just absolutely shreds. And that other big yellow number is the Odysseus Bow proc. Let's go over to the raw and show you that. His combo, I mean, is pretty easy. You kind of just put your 2 on them and then you just auto attack them and they're dead. So, and then obviously go into whatever stance you feel is necessary. I like to stay in the autumn and summer stances, and obviously if you need more lifesteal, go ahead and get your green stance. Yeah, I mean, he's super straightforward and he hits like a truck. So, and you're going to be having your Crusher on as well, so you can even have more Bramble Blasts up. And another combo that I like to do is use your Bramble Blast, root them, and then ult them right after that, and they shouldn't be able to get out of it. You could do that the opposite way. Put your ult on them and then root them. I did that a little bit slow, but obviously you want to do it a little bit faster. I think it's a little bit easier to confirm the ult if you use your 2 first, but it's all up to personal preference. Obviously, if you are safe and they're at like almost to no HP, go ahead and dash through them, and that should clean up the kill for you. Now we're going to be going through his crit build, which is also really viable on him. For crit builds, typically you want to be building Ninja Tabi just because you're going to be having a little bit less attack speed. So go ahead and pick up that. And next would be Devour's Gauntlets. This got buffed and you have 5 less stacks, so it's up to 70 stacks to fully stack it. Yeah, it's pretty good on hunters right now, and especially if you get Devos, you can actually solo the Gold Fury by yourself while people are fighting and they'll have no idea, and hunters with Devo gloves are really good at doing that, so that's what I'd recommend. Third item, get Executioner. It gives you some penetration if you hit your basic attacks pretty much. And next up, I like going Rage just because it got buffed and its critical hit chance is insane, especially if you get all 5 stacks. Sell one of your starter items, and you can either go like Deathbringer now, or if you wanted to do triple crit, go something like Wind Demon or Poison Star. These actually have the same amount of critical hit chance, but Poison Star has 15 more attack speed and Wind Demon has 30 physical power compared to 20. So if you're wanting to slow them with your crits, go ahead and pick up Poison Star. I think triple crit Poison Star is really good because obviously you're going to be critting for a lot. So let's just do like a triple crit build right now. So we'll pick up Wind Demon, which is really good because it increases your attack speed and movement speed for 5 seconds if you hit your critical hits. Sell Bluestone and pick up Deathbringer. So I almost feel like I like Rage a little bit more than Poison Star, but if you want the slow, don't do Rage and pick up this. We have 1.78 attack speed, so it's not too bad. So this is a viable triple crit, or you can do Rage. And let's see how much this hits. So yeah, you can see that my attack speed's a little bit slower. You're going to be hitting super hard with your crits. And obviously your passive doesn't crit, so he just hits pretty hard with this. Let's go over to Raw. And yeah, oh, and I'm level 6, so that might be a little bit why the numbers are different. Alright, we're level 20, so these numbers should be a lot better now. Okay, so we're hitting 254 and like 609 crits on this Odin. And that is our Bramble Blast, just kind of showing you damage numbers a little bit. And this is without Devo Glove stacks, so obviously when you get those stacks, you're going to have more physical power. So yeah, you just hurt a lot with him and with crit. And let's go back to that penetration build, because I was actually level 6 when I was trying to put those numbers out. So
Essential.
okay, yeah, so with this you're hitting around like 250 with your basic attacks, and then you have all those procs with everything else. So definitely shreds tanks. And then we'll go over to the Raw. So still hits pretty hard without crit. It's just kind of up to you if they have, you know, like 2 warriors and a guardian, or, you know, some super tanky team like or tanky mages. Go ahead and build the penetration route, and if they have a lot of squishies, build the crit route. And we're selling Ichthyophil for Odysseus bow just to show the damage on this. So yeah, I think either build is pretty viable on him. It's just all up to your personal preference. And let's do that Aussie for the Bloodforge, pretending we're in late game. So if you actually do that, your damage numbers increase by a shit ton, because Bloodforge has 75% physical power. So I definitely probably recommend selling your Aussie for Bloodforge late game. Just makes your damage numbers go a lot higher. So those are the typical builds I would like to do on him. There is Shifter's Shield available if you want to be a little bit more tanky. It's all up to your personal preference. I typically wouldn't build it on him right now just because shifters got nerfed a little bit in the protection, so it's pretty much up to you guys. Obviously, second relic, get your Aegis. And yeah, those are his basic combos. You know, use your 2 and auto attack them pretty much till they die. Use your charge if you are safe, and you know, polymorph them into pigs. And Chronos is super strong, and I really hope that this guide has helped you guys understand him a little bit better. And if you have any other god requests that you want me to do guides on, let me know, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!